Hello everyone, it's Claude here. Hope you're all well. We'll just wait for a few people to join, but our guest today.
What's up, Claude? How are you, man?
I am well. How are you?
Very good, Claude. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on. And yeah, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course, happy to. So yeah, my name is Brenden Kumarasamy. I'm the founder of Master Talk. Master Talk is a YouTube channel I started to help the world master the art of communication and public speaking. And I also coach executives and entrepreneurs to become exceptional speakers as well.
That's wonderful. And what was your journey that inspired you to become like an advisor in public speaking and your YouTube platform?
Yeah, for sure, Claude. So am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way? Is it
Yes,
Claude?
yes, that is right, Claude.
Claude, okay, thanks, Claude. So yeah, when I was in university, Claude, I used to do these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing footy or rugby or cricket or some other sport that was a bit too dangerous for me, really, I did presentations competitively. And I did that for many years, and that's how I learned how to speak, but also accidentally teach other people how to speak. So before I started working at IBM as a consultant, I had the idea for Master Talk because I realized a lot of the information I was sharing for free to the students wasn't available to the world for free. So that's what gave me the idea to start my YouTube channel right over there, actually, on my mom's couch. And then 3 years later, it turned into a business and a movement.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's amazing how these small ideas and these small initiatives can do really well. So what would you say from where you started to where it is now of public speaking and in general the platform? Do you find that it's got better, or do you find that it gives equal opportunities, or do you think it could give more?
Yeah, definitely. I think public speaking is an amplifier, right? Communication gives you an advantage. And I think the reason I'm so passionate about it is because despite it being the most important skill, the people who need that skill the most also can't afford a speech coach. Because let's say you're 15 years old in high school and you didn't come up with a lot of money, you don't have access for ways to make yourself a better communicator. So I definitely think communication, if mastered, gives you that opportunity or increases the odds of you being more successful. And this is why a question I always ask people to think about, Claude, is how would the world change if you were an exceptional communicator? You know, if you were exceptional at what you were doing, how would that change the way that you lead your family? How would that change the way that you communicate ideas, you'd guest on podcasts? And if you start to apply that, you'll be a lot more successful.
Great. And would you say that because is it the case that within public speaking, do you think there's a barrier with finances, or do you think is this a skill that can be learned and of course can be enhanced?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What I do think, Claude, is money definitely speeds up time. Like if you're someone who's an executive, you're someone who's making over 100 grand a year, definitely invest in a coach, whether it's me or somebody else, because that will speed up time, right? Because money speeds up time. If you invest in a coach who's already been there, done that, you can easily get there a lot faster. But that doesn't mean that you can't master communication if you don't have the money. Like me, when I was growing up, I didn't invest in a coach even if I wanted to because I didn't have the money for it. Right? So I was figuring this out. So I had to spend a lot of time to figure it out. And my hope with Master Talk is the people who can't afford a speech coach can still go to the YouTube channel and learn from my expertise, learn from these interviews, and speed up the time anyways, even if they don't have the budget for a coach.
Great. And would you say, because within your own experience and on the basis within the current climate right now, what's your view on the mental health of other speakers like yourself?
Yeah, for sure. It's a fascinating question. I think what I would say on mental health and public speaking is communication helps us talk about our problems more. You know, when we get closed off, when we don't have the communication skills to talk with the people that we love about challenges in our life, that's when the challenges start to build up over time. So I would encourage people to start becoming more effective communicators, not for the reasons that you usually think, like to present better at work or to give these big presentations or even to be a better guest in a podcast. I would say the reason why you want to master communication is because it affects every area of your life. You know, I'm always proud to say that the last time me and my sister got into a fight was probably over 10 years ago. I don't remember the last time that happened. And the reason is because when you become a better communicator, it's a lot easier for you to manage conflict. Like I live with my mom, my sister, and my 87-year-old blind grandpa. We all live in the same house. Yet the house is very peaceful, even if we have different perspectives on life, because we know how to communicate with each other effectively.
Interesting. And speaking of like blindness and, you know, as you said, the household that you live in, would you say that there's adaptability within, so within the representation within the speaking world of people who have disabilities or are from a different ethnic background, would you say that it's a vast representation, or would you say that that needs to be more inclusive as well?
Right. So here's my point of view on diversity and inclusion in the public speaking space. I think what's great about public speaking, Claude, is anyone can be a great speaker. And what's also amazing, especially in today's day and age, is you don't need to tell people, you can just show. You know, this is what I love, is the idea of show, don't tell. Right? So don't tell people you're a great speaker. Practice so many times so that it shows. Right? So Barack Obama didn't wait for somebody to tell them he could be president of the United States. He just said, I need to refine my communication skills. I need to get better. Whether I'm black, brown, pink, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to show my skills and then get people to buy in. So same thing with me. I didn't expect anyone to follow me. You know, I was a 22-year-old kid when I started Master Talk, but I made a decision to go, hey, if I want people to know me, it doesn't matter what the color of my skin is. It matters what I put out in the marketplace. And the market, and that's what I love about the market, Claude, is that the market never lies. Right? The market never lies. If you're good enough, eventually, and that happened with you, it took 3 years, but here we are today, they can't ignore you anymore. And I think that's the magic.
Wow, that's really an interesting insight. And would you say that within people becoming more, do you think there's an aspect where it's about looking within yourself, and how would you give tips to people to look within themselves or to be able to self-love themselves as well?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. I definitely think most of it is internal. We're definitely on the same page there. And what I would say on top of that is, you know, Tony Robbins says this best: the quality of the questions determine the quality of your life. Right? So if you ask yourself the right questions, you answer them, the quality of your life will improve. So here's a question a lot of us have probably not thought of. And the question is, if I gave you $1 billion, how would you spend your time? Not the money, but how would you spend your time? And a lot of people get stuck on this question, Claude, because they go, oh, I would buy Ferraris. I was like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, if I gave you $1 billion, not what would you buy, what would you do with your time? Because you don't have to work anymore. So would you still wake up at 8 a.m.? Would you wake up at 5 a.m.? Would you sleep all day for the rest of your life until you're dead? So these are the questions that help us figure out, what are we actually trying to do in life? And we start to look at life from a holistic point of view. And then when we start to do that, we start to develop a set of beliefs, a set of values, a set of who we want to live, how we want to be. And then when we start to do that, it becomes much easier to love ourselves because we know we stand for something. And I think the problem with most human beings is they don't stand for anything, right? It's the smallest thing. And I think standing for something helps build a belief system. Belief systems help build confidence, and confidence helps build self-love.
Wow, thank you. And would you say that Brenden in the fact that I think what I was going to say is within your own start of your career and your journey, who were your inspirations?
Oh, so many. Yeah, it's a great question. So many people have inspired me. You know, I'm super grateful. I found the right mentors in my life. But if I had to give one so people can learn from them as well, definitely Scott Harrison, who's the CEO of Charity Water. He started a nonprofit to help people gain access to clean water. And he has this great quote that I'd love to share. And the quote is, "The goal is not to live forever, but rather create something that will." And I thought that was really special because when I thought back to my life, I was like, well, the goal really isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that lives forever. So I always thought about impact. So I highly encourage people to check out his book, Thirst. I literally have it in my, right next to me. I have 2 copies of the book, literally. And the reason I have 2 copies is to remind me that it's the most important book that I've ever read. That's why I have 2 copies of the book. It's like a constant visual reminder. So I encourage people to check out Scott's work. He's really inspiring.
Yeah, do send it to me after. I will share it. That's really great to hear, and that quote was beautiful, by the way. It was really meaningful.
Of course.
What I was also going to ask is within the changing world and in your own outlook, would you believe that we could live in a world of peace?
That's a big question. I think peace is possible, but we shouldn't set a high expectation for it, right? If peace means that every human being is living cohesively together in a unit and every human being loves each other, I think that's an unfair expectation. I think it's more about how we define peace. So for all of us who are listening to this conversation, I think it starts with ourselves, right? Are we at peace with ourselves? And then the next step is, are we at peace with the 5 people around us, the people who caused us harm, the people who caused us challenges in our life? And then eventually that circle expands. But what I do think is if enough people do that, the world will eventually cancel itself out. We'll get to a place where there's going to be so much love in the world that the hatred loses, right, in the long term. And by the way, I think a lot of people are pessimistic about human beings, Claude. I'm very optimistic. I mean, just the fact that we're all still alive and we all cooperate 99.9% of the time is a special thing, right? So I think if we focus on that more and we start to be a bit more objective rather than just subjective and emotional all the time, and we just focus on, okay, how can we help people? Let's think about that. Then we can start to focus. The other piece I will say around peace is it's all about perspective as well. I honestly believe that if all of us just focused on one problem that we cared about solving, the world's problems would get solved. Like for me, I'm taking ownership in the fact that it is Brendan's job in this lifetime to solve public speaking for the world. So if it doesn't get solved, it's my fault. I own it, but I don't try and solve any other problem. I focus on communication. That's my niche. That's my expertise. Let me bring that to the world. Let me make Master Talk as big as I possibly can make it to help as many people, right? That's why I like doing these interviews and stuff. But it's not my job to solve everything else. So for everyone else, pick one problem. For you, it might be bakeries, right? It doesn't matter. But if everyone just did that, life would be better. But most of us, what we do is we just complain and focus on other people. And I think that's the challenge that we have to overcome.
Interesting. I would agree. Do you feel at the moment within your okay, so if someone came to ask for your services within advice of public speaking, what would be the best, what would be like a kind of, you could say, a short kind of definition of the process that you would give to them?
Yeah, I would say to keep things really simple, Claude. So 3 things. These are the 3 easiest tips in the book that if you just do these 3 things, you'll be much better than most people in your industry. So I'd say number 1 is ask yourself the question, how would the world change if you were an exceptional communicator? A lot of people don't dream about their vacations. They dream about the expensive things they want to buy, but they don't dream enough about how great of a communicator they can be. So reflect on that. It'll really change your mindset around speaking. The second thing that I recommend is the random word exercise. Pick one random word, like, I don't know, pistachios, could be mouse, could be pen, and then create presentations out of thin air. And what this does is it makes you a much better communicator because it builds that resilience over time. And then the third tip I would give is practice communication like a jigsaw puzzle. You know those little puzzle pieces we used to play as kids? We put those pieces together. So same, right, absolutely. So same thing with communication. Whenever we think about puzzles, our tendency is to start with the edges first, right? Because those pieces are easier to find. And then we work our way into the middle. I encourage all of you to start thinking about your communication in the same way, your presentations in the same way. Most of us, when we practice presentation, it's top, bottom, present the whole thing, present the whole thing. And then you're tired after like 2 practices. And you're like, geez, this is tiring. Let's go get like some lunch or something. Versus doing it like a jigsaw puzzle. Start with the edges first. Practice your introduction 50 times. Just do your first 2 minutes 50 times. Make that perfect. Then do the same thing with the conclusion. Make that perfect. What's a great movie with a terrible ending? Last time I checked, terrible movie. Right? So same thing with the conclusion. And then tackle the middle. If you do just these 3 things, which I'll repeat, how would the world change if you're an exceptional communicator? Answer that. Do the random word exercise. You don't even need to do this with a partner. You can do this alone in your basement. I've done the exercise so many times alone. And the third thing is practice your presentations like a jigsaw puzzle. If you start applying just these 3 tips and nothing else, you'll be way better at communication.
Brilliant. And that's wonderful tips and analogies. What I was also going to ask you is, would you say that within your own perspective currently and within your own projects, is there anything you would like to share?
For my projects, was that the question, Claude?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say two big ones. I mean, for sure, if you're interested in communication, check out the YouTube channel, right? All you have to do is type Master Talk in one word. You have access to hundreds of free videos that I've built over the last 3 years that I've built Master Talk. And if you want free coaching from me, you can sign up for one of my free trainings, which I encourage you as well to jump into, Claude. And then you can register for that free training at rockstarcommunicator.com. And the link is in my IG bio as well.
That's great. Thank you ever so much. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on, Brenden. And anybody else, if you are wondering where his handle is, it's in the pinned chat box below. And also you can feel free to follow him. And also it's been a pleasure for the guests, for the people that have joined this Instagram live. And you've been listening to myself and Brenden, and also stay tuned for the next one. Do also feel free to check out the Young Minds survey, which will be found at the Young Minds as well in regards to mental health. And it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. And we'll speak soon. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Bye.